Hi there, my name is Rocco. Welcome to my channel. This is a place where I do DAZ 3D tutorial videos to help you get the most out of your own 3D renders. In this video, I'm going to be setting up a 3-point lighting system from start to finish and giving you the tips on how and when to use one. But what is a 3-point lighting system, you might ask? Well, it's a standard lighting setup that you'll find used in any sort of a visual media that you'll see about, whether that's photography, video, film, or where our interests lie, of course, in 3D rendered images. It's basically a simple system that can form the basis of a lot of lighting that you'll use in DAZ 3D. Certainly the ideas behind it anyway. You might not exactly be setting a scene up in the way that I'm going to be showing you here, and certainly not if you're trying to do something a little bit more realistic and a bit more realism. But if you understand the concepts behind it, then you can be mindful of its elements when you're making up a scene, and you can incorporate these things as and when you need them. So what we have then here is our little model we're going to be using in this scene, all on a lonesome here in our little pseudo photo studio that I've got set up for her. Incidentally, before we start, if we just come across to the render settings and then on the environment mode, you can see that we're set to scene only, which means that we're only going to be lighting the scene up with the lights that we put in the scene, which at the moment, as you can see, is none at all because there's no lights there at all. So if we come back out to texture mode, and then we're going to talk about the lights that we are going to be adding into the scene. A 3-point lighting system is, as the name suggests, there are 3 lights in the system to light up our model. We have a light that's known as the main light, which is the purpose of that light is to provide the main light that's going to light up our character. Second light is called a fill light, and what the fill light does, it sits on the opposite side of where the main light is, and it's there to regulate and to control the depth and the darkness of the shadows that are cast over our model's body. Which we'll get to see when I set these up. The third light that we have is something called a rim light that appears behind the character or behind the model, either at body level, head level, or up above, to be able to just provide a little lighted rim around the model, whether it's highlights on the shoulder or the top of the head or something like that, just to make the model stand out a little bit. And so the first light that we're going to be adding to our scene is the main light. I just mentioned there, it's the main source of light that's going to be lighting up our model. Now, normally what happens with the main light is that we place it either to the left or the right of the model, which is per your own personal preference, which way you want to do it, the left or the right of the model, and it provides a nice, solid, intense light coming into the model, lighting up that one part of the body. And to do that, what we're going to do, we're going to have a look with the perspective view, and I'm just going to rotate the perspective view around to a position that I'm happy with. We'll go about there if you want, and I'll come up to create. Spotlight I'm going to be going with in this example. Apply active viewport transform so that it creates the spotlight at the position where my perspective view currently is, and I'll hit accept. And this, what we get here is, because we're looking through the light, we can just see the spotlight itself. I'll just raise it up a little bit. We're just seeing the spotlight itself as it shines onto our model. Now, if we now go across to our camera view and come across to NVIDIA Iray again. Now, things are all dark and dingy because the light hasn't been adjusted yet. What I'm going to do with it is I'm going to come down into the spotlight settings, the light settings. I'm going to change it over to geometry so I can flatten the shadows out a little bit. There's a little link up in the top right of the corner, which will explain why I do this. I'll just go with nice and big light. We'll turn the render emitter off, and I'll put in, let's say, about that many lumens. Again, it doesn't really matter how much, just get it as bright or as what that you want. I think that looks okay. That looks absolutely fine. Now, what we'll do before we move on, we'll just come up to Spotlight. We'll just give that a little click so I can just call it main, just so we know which light is which. So there we go. That's our model lit up with just our main light that we're going to do. Now that's perfectly fine. You might want to just leave it like that. That's adequate. I'm happy with that as it is, just with one light. But in a 3-point lighting system, we might want to be able to control this shadow and this shading area on the side of our model's body just here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add in the fill light, which is exactly the same process as we've just done with the main, but we do it on the other side of our model. So if we just come out back down to texture shaded, we come back to our perspective view, and what we'll do, we'll just put it somewhere around this way, maybe just about like that. And again, we'll come up to create, spotlight again, apply active viewport transform. So we'll do that again at the perspective view, so it places the camera right where we're at. I won't even move that, I'll just leave that where it is. And we'll come across back to our camera view, and we come across to NVIDIA iRay once more. Again, I'll just, once this kicks in, I'll just rename spotlight into fill light, just so we know. Now again, because the lumens are low, we're not really going to be seeing much here. Once again, what I'll do is I'll just increase the rectangle and just change it so any shadows that get cast, even though the fill light shouldn't be casting shadows, I just do it out of matter of course now, just soften all the light up a little bit. Now, the lumens that we get with our light, with our fill light, is important. Your fill light brightness needs to be less than your main light. Now our main light is at that many, which is at what, about 10 million is it, if I just copy and paste that. The reason why the fill light needs to be less than that is because if it's more than that, your fill light will become your main light. Does that make sense? And your main light will become your fill light. So your fill light needs to be have a less brightness, be less bright than our main light. So if I copy and paste in our main light's value, take a 0 off, and we bring it down. Now, as you can see, the shading on here is a little bit less than what it was with just the main light alone. If I take the fill light off, the shading's quite dark and quite deep. If we put the fill light back on, it's lightened up a bit. Now we can adjust our lumen value to whatever we want, depending on how deep we want those shadows. I'll just change it to 50 squillion, whatever number that is at the moment. I'll just change that to a 5. And again, we lighten that shade up a little bit. Now that is the purpose of the fill light, to lighten up this shadow area. Do you want shaded areas? Do you not want shaded areas? The fill light will take away that shaded area, but its value in lumens needs to be less than your main light. If it isn't, if we put that onto a 0 and whack that up to really bright light on the fill light, you can see now the shading is swapped over to the other side of the model, and our fill light has become our main light. So we don't really want to be doing that. Our fill light has to be lower in value, lower in brightness, lower in lumens than what our main light is. Now, the final light in the 3-point lighting system is the rim light, and the rim light sits behind our model and just provides a little bit of highlight coming down from behind her and above her, whichever way that you want to do it. It's not as important as the main or the film light, and you can realistically you can go without it if you want, but it's always handy to have it in, as it can just make the model stand out a little bit more than what you normally would. So again, if we just come out to texture mode and then back into perspective view, and spin our perspective camera around so that we're now behind our model, and in this case I'm just going to raise it up a little bit also, and then point it down, come back a little bit more. The position of your rim light isn't as massively important, just as long as it's behind the character, behind the model. You can have it directly behind or off to one side. So we'll just place that behind it, and we'll come across to create spotlight again. And we will apply the viewport transform so it appears with our perspective camera, and then we will just spin right away around again, maybe just lift it a little bit higher in this case, and then go back to our camera view. Once in our camera view, we'll just rename spotlight again, just so we know which is which, back into rim. And so if we now, I'll tell you what I'll do. Well, in this case, I'll turn off the main and the fill camera just so we can see what the rim's doing. And we'll go across to texture, or sorry, the iRay mode. Now in this case, there's nothing much, obviously, because there's not much brightness there. I'm not going to turn this into a rectangle at this point. I'm just going to keep it as it is. This is a normal point light. And I'm just going to gradually increase the lumens. And you can see now where the light from this rim light is starting to catch those elements of our model and just provide a little bit of a highlight on her. And again, you can go with this as bright as you want or as low as you want. It's your call. I just keep going and up. So what's happening there then? The light is shining behind it and it's providing a silhouette with our model. So now when we add the main and the fill light back in, you're just getting this highlight over the top of her shoulders coming in from behind her, just making her stand out a little bit extra, a little bit more. And that's what the rim light's purpose to do, just to light her up from behind, provide a light coming from it, to provide this little bit of a silhouette type figure that just makes her stand out from the background a little bit more and a little bit extra. And that is your 3-point lighting system. Now, of course, you can play around with the brightnesses, you can play around with the color of the lights if you want, you can do all manner of things, whichever you want to do, and it's perfectly fine. But that is your basic setup for your 3-point lighting system. Your main light, which provides your main light for your model, your fill light, which adjusts and controls the depth of the shadow that we have on the opposite side of our main light, and then the rim light, which just makes us stand out a little bit against the background that we've got. And so that is your 3-point lighting system. As I say, it basically shows the principles behind lighting a scene up. As I mentioned earlier, you probably won't set up your lighting in your scene exactly like I've set this scene up. Unless, of course, you're doing a specific studio type scene where you're doing something like a photo shoot or a promo image that you might see on the Daz store. So there we have then a basic 3-point lighting setup. Understand the principles of it and then apply those principles to your own images, either directly like what I've done here, or by using the elements in your own scene to apply those elements, or apply those 3 types of lighting that we've got. Now, I hope you got something from this video. If so, smash the like button down below, as it helps me out big time with the YouTube algorithms. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the little notification bell down below so that you don't miss future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye now.